Hello guys, this is just your Hawes. As you can tell by that title, I'm doing a review for Venom Let There Be Carnage. I saw it a few weeks ago. Sorry that I've not been uploading in a while. That's my bad. But I really want to talk about this film and to get a review out for the film because it is still a big film. I will hopefully soon finally get my review out for the final two episodes. My kind of thoughts on those two episodes, my kind of brief thoughts. So we'll try and get a review for that soon. Hopefully I'll be able to see Eternal soon. I can do a review for that. So just stick around. So let's just get start with my general thoughts. Then I'll go into the good, the mixed, and the outright kind of bad stuff. So let's get started. Overall general thoughts. I had a lot of fun with this film. My camera straight? No, it's not. You're seeing the behind the scenes here. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this film. It doubles down on what for me personally works with the first film and had a more interesting story, better action, and overall I just felt like it was a more solid and film than what we have seen before in the Venom, because my thoughts on the first Venom was that it was very messy. The plot was very messy. You did have that very interesting of a villain. The final battle was a bit generic. Like nothing was simply cool. But the reason overall I give it a positive view is because of that relationship of Eddie Brock and Venom that we don't in the first film see until 40 minutes in, which really hinders the film. This film, we see them again, we know these characters, and it allows them to just explore it more than they got to in the first film to create, in my opinion, a much more enjoyable film. So let's get started with the good, and the action is kind of really good, really solid action. The plot is much less generic than the first film. It's a little bit more interesting. You can kind of see where it's going and slowly build. Where when you watch Venom, the first Venom film, you couldn't really see where it was going, like plot wise. You were just thinking, okay, where are they going with this? Because the final stage isn't set up until the last 15 odd minutes or something like that till the film. That's not until then the stakes are set. These stakes slowly increase. So when we get to the end, it still feels big and more important than what was shown in the first film. Even when you technically think about it, the stakes were bigger in that film, in the first film, what the plan was, but it didn't feel as big as the stakes in this film. The stakes just felt bigger, which is something I very much like. You can see where the story was going. Eddie Brock and Venom's stuff I just like. I know it's not to everyone's taste, which I'll get into a minute. But this kind of comedic showing they have between each other is just something I really like. I just love that kind of connection. Cletus Cassidy, I'll talk a bit more about Carnage in a second, but Cletus Cassidy is great. Woody Harrelson plays Cletus Cassidy really good, and that side of him is very much compelling. And he does definitely feel like a serial killer, despite this not being your 18 rated film. So he couldn't do all the violence that comes with this serial killer, but he still felt like a dangerous serial killer, which is a hard thing to do when you can't do the violence that is well known for serial killers in this film because it's only a 15, which means you can only do so much, which I think makes his performance even better, that he was still able to show that despite the restrictions. The action sequences, the final battle was just a lot more interesting. They give a specific reason why they are able to win, despite Carnage being obviously more powerful. They give a reason within that story, and it's just incredibly compelling. And it's just a very enjoyable film. I do have a few issues with it, thinking back about it, but overall it's a very enjoyable film. Another thing for Buzz is you've got to watch this mid-credit scene. It is big. It is hugely important to the Marvel universe as a whole. If you know the rumours, you know where I'm going with this. But it's just an incredibly important post-credit scene that even if you haven't watched the first Venom film or really watched anything apart from the bigger films, you need to watch this because of the post-credit scene. So it's just immensely important, and I think it's going to be important for a film coming out this year. That's just my thoughts. You just have to watch it. So now I've talked about how great the film is. Let's get into the mix, which is not this isn't a section of necessarily bad things. It's just something you might love, you might hate. Main thing: if you did not like the comedy aspects of the Venom Eddie Brock relationship in the first film, you will not like this film. It doubles down on that. It's silly, it's stupid, and I love it. But if you did not like that in the first film, I don't think you're going to like this film. This film's mainly focused for those guys that either liked the first film, or even if they didn't like the first film, at least really enjoyed the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom. If those were the categories you fell under, you're going to enjoy this film much more, and you would think this film is better. If you did not like that kind of relationship between Eddie and Brock, you will think this is worse. This is one of the worst ways to do a sequel, doubling down on something that isn't good. So it completely depends on what your thoughts were on their original relationship. Where if you liked it, that depends on your opinion of whether you liked it or not. And this film is 1.5 hours, mainly because the director Andy Serkis wanted to get rid of some of the exposition so it moves quickly. I'm going to talk more about this in a second, but if you want a very exposition story, like just to get the details and the nitty-gritties of the story, and you want more than just a generic fun plot, then I'm not sure the film's going to be for you, because he said he wanted to cut a lot of the exposition out to get right to the point, which for most of it worked, but a little bit in certain situations, which I'll get to in a minute, I don't think it did. Now let's get into bad. And the main thing is, because of them cutting so much exposition out, some of the stuff feels really underdeveloped looking back. Like Carnage, because they established Eddie Brock and Venom that they're two different personalities. They don't really give Carnage anything in this film. They give Cletus Cassidy a lot that makes him a compelling villain, but Carnage he's hugely underdeveloped. He only needs like 5 minutes of exposition, which they probably cut out. Which I'll be quite interested if they do a director's cut, because there's no backstage issues or anything. There's no studio interferences or anything. So I'll be interested to see if they do a director's cut, which is like a more longer version of the film with stuff they took out, which I personally would quite like to see, because Carnage, not Cletus Cassidy, but Carnage felt really underdeveloped and not that interesting apart from the cool fight scenes and stuff he was in. Also, this is something for the mix, but they don't actually fight until the end. You don't really see Carnage versus Venom until near the end, which I'm fine with. It's a big climax, but if you wanted to see bits and pieces that finally build it and you don't want to wait like over an hour for it, then maybe that's not for you. But so another thing is that because there's stuff that significantly impacts the status of our main characters and why they're in the situation they are, that is not really developed like really at all. They vaguely do it, put the points as to why they're in this situation now by the end of the film, but it's nowhere, it's not concise, it's not concrete, it's very vague as to why. So those are kind of my only flaws. Overall though, this is a fun, enjoyable film. If you were a fan of the first film, or at least a fan of the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom, you will enjoy this film much more. It's a much more strong film. That film I'd probably give about a 6 out of 10. This I could probably give a 7.5, maybe a 7. It's a really good film with a massive post-credit scene. I cannot stress how big that post-credit scene. Overall, I enjoyed it. If you weren't a big fan of the Brock and Venom dynamic, maybe wait till you can watch this for cheaper at your home, because you still need to see it because of the post-credit scene. Or if you really, but it won't be for you if you don't like the relationship in the first one. So those are overall my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel I haven't yet, turn notifications on so you never miss a video. Comment down below what you thought of the film if you've seen it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye guys!